All right, so what we're going to do, let me just tell you a little bit. So, best draft
There we
picks
go.
from ACC teams. Now, this doesn't mean the best player from every ACC team. This means the best draft pick. So, if they were drafted and then traded, they wouldn't be the best draft pick, would they, Al?
I was when I first started seeing some of these lists, I was like, okay, what is he doing here? But I think I get it now. So it's got to be the team that drafted him where they did all their great stuff, right?
Exactly. So,
Okay, I'm with you.
I'll go ahead and put a player out there. Deion Sanders. Most of his
Yep.
success, continued his success, even though he was
Hmm.
successful at the Falcons, he did not, that's not where he's known for. He's known for the Cowboys, right? So, um, all right, so let's go down. Boston College, best draft pick out of Boston College. I've got Matt Ryan. This is obvious. I think this is an obvious for me. I think it was interesting just to kind of see because I don't know a lot about the other teams. That's why I like doing the show so I can kind of learn more about the other teams. But
Right.
Matt Ryan from Boston College, he took his career to a whole nother level. 2016 was the MVP. He was an All-Pro, four-time Pro Bowler. Came within a major collapse of winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The only other honorable mention would have been Luke Kuechly. He doesn't have the years yet that Ryan
Right.
does, but he's a five-time All-American, six-time Pro Bowler, 2013 NFL Defensive MVP, and I love him. I don't like the Panthers, but I like Luke.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. I'm not a Panthers fan either, as we all know. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, and I do want to say hey to the in-laws. I hear they're watching at home. So Mr. and Mrs. Cleveland, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I think those nailed it. Matt Ryan, I think, is the obvious choice there. Now it's time for Clemson. We spoke about this. Now
But
we
well,
spoke about this.
before you go any further,
Oh no.
you said Mr. Cleveland.
Yes.
I'm gonna be late. I'm sorry. But
That's why.
I
Because I'm
thought
trying to
about
help
this
you out.
today. I thought about this today. I saw a post that had the tombstone of the Tampa National Championship. Somebody on Clemson Nation posted it, and I was like, you know what we need, what we don't have? We need a picture, you, your dad, Mr. Cleveland, and me at that
Mhm.
tombstone. Because that
That's
was
right.
the boys, man. That was us
True.
in Tampa. Watched that game, brought them. Was the reason why Deshaun Watson was able to go down the field with 2 minutes
Of
left.
course.
We
Absolutely.
were there. We supported him in that, and we need a picture in front of that tombstone. So, Mr. Cleveland, if you're listening, which Alan said you are, we need to get a tombstone picture. So let's make it happen this year. But tell us about Clemson.
I think we could do that. Listen, folks, the only reason I'm really on the show is to make sure Morgan stays on track. It never works, but I'm trying. Okay, I'm hoping to get there. So right now we're going to move on to Clemson. Obviously, the choice, the best Clemson player in the NFL of all time, Brian Dawkins. He put together a special Hall of Fame career, one of the leaders of the Philly defense. Greg, I hope you're still watching because I know you're a huge Dawkins guy. He was named to 4 All-Pro teams, 6 Pro Bowl trips. Okay, I think it's a no doubter. And of course, we also had on most of our lists when we talked about best Clemson pros, we had Michael Dean Perry, who was another guy. He had much better NFL career than William Perry, even though the fridge gets all the love. He was definitely the better pro for sure. It was just these are really the two best ones we have. Brian Dawkins, Hall of Famer. This guy was incredible. I'd love to have him back on the team today for sure. How about? I know this is a little slim pickings here, but what do you got for Duke?
Well, I will say, when we posted that top five about all-time NFL players from Clemson, so
Right.
many people put the fridge, and I'm like, dude, his brother was
Yeah,
way better,
yeah,
way
definitely.
better. What are you doing? I think people just like him because he's popular.
Sure.
They don't really look at the stats. But I don't know anything about Duke. Okay, so this guy, I found him online. He's their tone setter from really back in the '70s. There's not really much to pick from Duke, but I got Mike Curtis. Mike Curtis spent 11 years at Baltimore, one of the best all-around linebackers in the late '60s and '70s. I don't really have much to say about him because I don't follow Duke football. If you follow Duke football, well, you and like three other people, congratulations.
So since you didn't have a lot to say for Duke, I'll give you Florida State. I know this is a pretty good one, so go hit us with this.
All right, so again, like I said, Deion Sanders is my childhood all-time favorite player because he could play everything. He was awesome. He was just a showboat, just like I'm a showboat. But Dion did not do everything at Atlanta, so we're going to pass on him, and we're going to say somebody who's another guy I like to play with, especially on Madden back in the day, but Derek Brooks. He's a Hall of Famer, 14 years at Tampa Bay, one of the leaders of the epic defenses that won a Super Bowl championship, 5-time All-Pro, 11-time Pro Bowler, and he wasn't that bad for the 28th pick in the first round. So I went Derek Brooks as number one. Deion Sanders, I think, would actually be a number one if he had done everything at Atlanta, but he only spent 5 years there. So, we'll go for that.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And Georgia Tech, I think the choice is pretty obvious. Calvin Johnson, he's not too far removed from college, so everybody knows who he is. Megatron, everybody loves him. Huge receiver. I would like to point out, when Georgia Tech came to Clemson for game day, can anybody tell me how many catches or how many yards he had that night? Please tell me in the comments if you know.
I don't know this.
I don't think there's any other choice.
I don't know this, but I like to say, my dad used to always tell me there were all these Heisman Trophy players that came to Clemson and never scored. So I'm going to imagine that Megatron never scored either. But that I don't know. I'm just guessing. Did you have the answer for that? Or are you just leaving us hanging?
Zero.
Zero
for both.
Wow. 0 catches.
I'm pretty sure he had 0 catches that night. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he had any catches that night. It was a great night. I was actually sitting in the upper deck in the student section that night. I had traded tickets with somebody, and it was an amazing game to watch. That was the Spiller and Davis game, so it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, well, those were some amazing games. All right, so for Louisville, another one is kind of like Duke. There's not a lot coming out of Louisville other than Lamar Jackson now, but hopefully Lamar Jackson will be on this crazy y'all. He's not on this list, but Tom Jackson was part of the Orange Crush, which is, I love to say Orange Crush. That was the play that won us the national championship. But Denver's Orange Crush back in the 70s, in 1977 All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, and was the ultimate leader for that football team. But then we got Miami. And Miami, you talk about Duke and Louisville, but Miami you could fill like 3 books full of NFL players that came from Miami that were great draft picks for their teams.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Morgan, you have to do this list, okay? You did so much research for these draft picks, and you did such a good job. I cannot take Miami away from you. There's too many names for you to name. I need you to go through this one for me.
All right, so who doesn't really make the cut? You've got Edrin James, Frank Gore, Michael Irvin, Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Jim Kelly, Vinny Testaverde, Cortez Anthony, Vince Wilfork, Bernie Kosar. I mean, I got so many others, but I narrowed it down to Ray Lewis. Okay, Ray Lewis was an all-time 10-time All-Pro, 13-time Pro Bowler with 2 Super Bowl championships. He's not the great linebacker in the world. In history, I'm going to say he was pretty close, even though he had some controversy, and legal troubles. But really, I wanted to put Ed Reed too, because Ed Reed was really good at being a safety man. He had, I don't know how many interceptions he had, but he's got to be one of the greatest safeties to ever play the game, up there with Brian Dawkins as well. And then Warren Sapp, obviously, you like to watch him on TV. He's like a news anchor, a sports anchor now, but he's a Hall of Famer as well. So Miami's just got a large list of just Hall of Famers there.
Yeah, absolutely. And next up is North Carolina. We're going to honorable mention Julius Peppers. Obviously, like you said, he's gone from great, to Hall of Fame, when he did all his stuff in Chicago, and he even went to Green Bay, which was great for me. Obviously, I was, happy to get a player as good as him in Green Bay, but he did a good job, for Carolina too. So he got honorable mention here. Obviously, best player to come out of North Carolina, Lawrence Taylor. He really makes this group special. Arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. Hall of Famer, gold standard of pass rushers. Now, of course, highlight of his career obviously is his cameo in Waterboy. But other than that, great football player as well.
I got to tell Audrey to turn the AC up or something, man. She's killing me in here in this room. I got all the things shut out. I'm trying to get this audio sounding good, and I'm like burning up over here. So I apologize if I look like I'm dying, but I am. Gosh. But a lot of people are talking about, I missed, Michael Gilbert's telling me all kinds of players that I'm missing from the Miami list, and I'm sorry. There's just Miami. Hopefully hopefully they never get back to where they were because Clemson's always destroying them in the in the championship game. I mean, I wouldn't mind having more good teams in the ACC. And maybe shut up some of those guys from the SEC. So another interesting thing about North Carolina, did you see the article where Mac Brown said they have a chance to beat Clemson this year and they have a good shot at it?
I did. I chuckled.
That's all we got to say about that.
Yeah, I like Mac Brown. I think he's going to do a decent job, but yeah, I don't think they're beating Clemson. That's for sure.
Good recruiter, not so good. Not so good at predicting games. Sorry.
Yeah. Crystal ball.
So NC State, Phillip Rivers. Obviously, I had Torrey Holt on there too. I thought he was really good. He played against with the Rams. Back when the Rams were, actually not in LA. But then this was something that was surprising to me. Pittsburgh. I didn't know this. I didn't know much about Pittsburgh when they joined the ACC. I know a lot of ACC fans are going to be like, dude, you didn't know much about Pittsburgh? But really, I didn't know much about Pittsburgh. I Darrelle Revis, I didn't know. I learned that Darrelle Revis was there. Mike Ditka, Ricky Jackson, Curtis Martin, Larry Fitzgerald, I knew was from Pittsburgh. Mark May, which I don't like Mark May. But there's like Aaron Donald. And then you got Dan Marino, which I felt like you got to put Dan Marino if you're going to have Dan Marino. But Tony Dorsett was really good too. There's a lot of players there that were just really awesome. I feel like Clemson, unfortunately, is one of those teams that doesn't have a long list of really, really good NFL players. But I believe if we do this list 10 years from now, you're going to have a pretty good list of. Hopefully it's gonna be that list that's gonna be like Miami, where it's like, how many players do you name from Clemson? I really believe that's a big possibility. But in the NFL it's tricky because some players like your Tony Romos of the world come from Eastern Illinois and just like nowhere. They don't come from your marquee schools that you're used to seeing be so successful in college, and so. Yep. You get a lot of surprises. Syracuse was another one that I felt like was interesting. Who you got for Syracuse?
Syracuse, obviously, Jim Brown, one of the greatest running backs of all time. Could be arguably one of the greatest players in NFL history. He had eight All-Pro nods in his 9 years before, he exiting the league as the all-time leading rusher. So Jim Brown, definitely going to be a fan favorite. Everybody loves that guy. Honorable mention, Marvin Harrison. I saw this on the list. He was being thrown to by Peyton Manning. I like Marvin Harrison. Not a big Peyton Manning fan with the Colts, but I thought they should have won more rings than they did for sure. But Marvin Harrison, great guy.
I think it was that. Was it not to Marvin Harrison where Peyton Manning threw that interception? Was it to the Colt or to the Saints? I don't know. Maybe it was Reggie Wayne, but he threw that interception. It was like brought back, and that got him out of winning the going into the Super Bowl, I believe. But I'll have to talk to my friend Brad about that. He's a big Colts fan, and so he's going to beat me up for not knowing more Colts history. But you got a lot of players at Syracuse. I thought Donovan McNabb would be a good one. Dwight Freeney, obviously. But then let's go into Virginia. Virginia really, to me, when stands out, and maybe it's just because they're newer players, but I got Rondé and Tiki Barber. And then Virginia Tech. I really wanted to say Virginia Tech because this guy had his rookie card as well when I was a kid, Bruce Smith. And so I believe his first year he didn't really do that well, and a lot of people thought he was a bust. And then he came on and just dominated the rest of his career. And he was a good one. I used to like this will be something for your Packer / Philadelphia guys. I used to really like Reggie. Reggie the priester, the pastor, or what? I'm trying to think of his last name. Reggie, not Wayne, but Reggie Smith. I want to say. Am I thinking of that right? But he was a defensive end for the Packers, and he was also a defensive end for the Eagles. But I think of him and Bruce Smith in the same era, same sense. They're both really good defensive ends. Bruce Smith, obviously out of Virginia Tech there. Finished up with 171 sacks for Buffalo and named to 8 All-Pros. Who you got for Wake Forest?
Wake Forest,
to finish us
a guy I don't know. No. I know nothing about Wake Forest, that's for sure. Bill George, okay, is what we have on the list for Wake Forest. So somebody tell us if we're wrong here, okay? But we've got him turned into a great Hall of Fame career, different positions, starting out mostly at guard, working later as a middle linebacker, All Pro 8 times, okay? Uh, you know, I don't think there was anything to choose from after this guy because Wake Forest doesn't put out a lot of pro prospects. They're a lot like Duke. But
Oh yeah,
this
well, Bill
obviously
George
eight
is
Pro Bowls, that's big.
yeah. If
That's big.
you're a Hall of Famer, I mean that's
Absolutely.
basically how I found it. I said, okay, you're a Hall of Famer, go. You know,
Yep.
so
I like it.
Wake Forest having a Hall of Fame NFL player was amazing, and that
Sure.
kind of sums up our list. Thanks for bearing with us, and thanks for letting us go through that list. We've been trying to do it for a couple of weeks, and so we're kind of excited to get it on and go move on.